friends. Happy Tuesday. Let me just make sure everything is connected. Just give it a second here. Always takes a second to connect all of the platforms. And then I'm going to also go live on Instagram. Are we live? I think we are. Okay, here we go. Perfect. I think we're good. I'm just going to check. Sorry, guys. Let's make sure we're live. Okay, I think we are live on all platforms. Perfect. So happy Tuesday. Oh, I need to go live on Instagram. So many things to think about. So I hope you're all having a great day. Great. So we're also live on Instagram. We're on all the platforms. We could get started. I am so excited about today's chat because we're going to be talking about the most efficient way for women who, if you're over 35 and really if you're in your 30s and beyond, when it comes to strength training. So wherever you're watching from, I'm really glad you're here. And if you're watching the replay, also glad you're able to tune in for the replay. And I just want to jump straight in today because I think what I'm about to share with you is going to reframe the way that a lot of you think about your workouts, that you think about strength training. Strength training is getting a lot of attention nowadays, which it absolutely should. But something that I see constantly is women who are working out regularly. They're showing up consistently. They're putting in a lot of effort. They're putting in the time, but they're getting almost nothing back from it. And I'm not talking about women who aren't trying, but I'm talking about those who are doing, Orange Theory 3 to 4 times a week, doing bootcamp classes, HIIT classes, group fitness workouts. Again, they're working hard, they're sweating, it feels productive, yet nothing's panning out, right? And their body isn't changing, or they're noticing that they're not recovering the same way, or things are actually getting worse. More belly fat, more fatigue, again, harder recovery. So that's really what we're going to dive into today. And the reason most of the time is not effort. It's not about needing more effort at this point. It's not about needing more discipline. It's not even about the numbers of workouts that you're doing. It's really that the workouts have no real purpose and intention behind it. And at this stage of life, especially, it's super key because workouts, like exercise themselves, allow us to generate a stress response. So you could generate a positive stress response with workouts. And if they're not sending the right stress response, the right biological signals that a woman that your body actually needs after 35, then that's when we don't see the physical changes, right? Of course, there's a lot of other things that go into this, right? Like nutrition, but I'll talk a bit about that later too. But once I explain what I mean by that, the biological signals, I think things are going to click for a lot of you. And I think that a lot of things are going to start to make more sense. So that's why I'm really excited to be talking about this today. And quick intro for anybody who's joining in. If you're new here, if you're new to my Instagram page, you're watching on the other platforms, I'm Alexis Gerlau. So I'm a biologist and the founder of Flexus Fitness. And over the last 10 years, I've worked with thousands of high-performing women, executives, leaders, women who are incredibly disciplined and capable, but they're just frustrated and feel like their body isn't keeping up with all that and feel like their body isn't responding the way that it used to. So what we do here at Flexus Fitness is really help them understand the why behind all that, what to actually do about all of it, and to get the underlying systems communicating better so that their body can actually respond the way that it's meant to with the changes that are happening. So let's get right into it. So the first thing is, when I'm saying, I just want to take a second here before we get into all the good stuff about like, what do I mean by workouts are biological signals? So the idea that I'm going to be building on here today is strength training is not just exercise. It's a biological signal. Think of your body constantly asking one question. And that question is always, what environment am I living in? What environment am I operating in right now? Do I need to stay strong? Do I need to maintain muscle? Am I able to let go of energy, or do I have to conserve energy? And the answer your body gives depends entirely on the signals that you're giving it, which I personally find is super empowering when we think about it that way, because we are in full control of those signals that we're giving our body. We just need to make sure it's getting the right signals. So when you're working out, it's not that you're just burning calories and that leads to fat loss if that's your goal, or you're just picking up, heavier weights and that's going to build muscle because you're lifting heavier. It's really about how you're communicating with your biology. And then your body will respond to that higher quality signal that you're giving it. It's not just about the quantity, right? It's about the signal quality that you're giving it. So this is really why that idea becomes even more important if you're in your 30s and beyond, because muscle naturally declines 3 to 8% per decade starting in your 30s. So when hormones do start to shift as you're approaching perimenopause and then postmenopause, all that begins, that process accelerates even more, which means if you're not intentionally sending the right signals, your body is slowly letting go of muscle. It's slowly burning through muscle. And muscle, when I'm talking about muscle, we're not just talking about like the way that you look. Like, sure, we all want to, have nice muscle definition, have that toned look, right? But muscle is one of the reason why it's so important, especially, is it's one of the most metabolically active tissues in your body. It influences blood sugar. It influences your energy levels, your sleep, bone density, brain health. So there's a lot of things that go into having more muscle and how it benefits us. But all to say, like, when muscle naturally starts to decline, women do start to notice more belly fat, more fatigue, just more challenge. It becomes more challenging to lose fat. And again, it's not because they're necessarily doing something like out of this world, something extremely wrong. Like a lot of the women I talk to, when we talk about what they're doing and I look on paper, I tell them straight up, I'm like, there's nothing that's like alarming here for me right now. I mean, in some cases there is, like I could see certain patterns, but a lot of times it's because their metabolism has quietly changed, and what they're doing isn't supporting that system now. So it's really about how we're integrating everything together, how we're piecing everything in together. So doing more random workouts doesn't fix that. Doing more strength workouts isn't going to fix that. Sending the right signal does. So there's 6 variables. Now that you understand like the idea of where I'm coming from when I say biological signals, there's 6 variables that make strength training actually work. And these 6 variables are the key ones that we focus on here at Flexus Fitness to really make sure a workout's effective, somebody's getting the most out of the time that they do have. And this is where a lot of women haven't been given that full picture. So these 6 variables that I'm going to talk about are really about, they determine how your body actually adapts. So I'm going to go through each one quickly, and I want you to think about your training as I do. And if you guys have any questions as I'm going through this, like, please let me know in the comments. Again, wherever you're watching from, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to ask them afterwards. So the first variable is frequency. And if you have a pen and paper, like, feel free to jot this down. So the first variable is frequency. How often are you sending that signal? So think about it this way. Each major muscle group in our body needs to be trained at least twice per week for our body to actually adapt. That is the bare minimum. I always say, like, that's why we focus on full body workouts here at Flex Fitness, because if you're doing 2 full body workouts, we could cover that. And if you have a very busy schedule, like, it allows you to just hit it at least twice per week. And it's not back-to-back workouts because, again, like, your muscle doesn't grow during a workout. It's going to grow when you recover afterwards. So the workout itself sends the signal, and recovery is actually where muscle is going to be built. So for most women, 2 to 3 well-designed full body workouts, full body sessions per week is more than enough. You don't need to be living in the gym. You don't need to be, or like working out, if you're working out from home, like, you just need the right signals consistently. So frequency, again, is how often do we want to hit all those muscle groups, at least 2 or 3 times per week. The next variable that we always want to look at is volume. So how much work is the muscle actually doing? So think about volume is like, you have your reps. So how many times are you performing that exercise in a set? So you have your reps and your sets. So the good news is research shows that you could build muscle with as little as 4 sets per muscle group per week. So meaning if you have like your 2 full body workouts and you're doing 2 sets, that covers you for the week. So again, you don't have to be spending an hour and a half, 2 hours working out. You could get a lot done in that amount of time, in that short amount of time. So for most women, balancing, again, a career, most women have a life. The sweet spot is typically 4 to 8 quality sets per week, per muscle group per week, right? So that gives your body enough to stimulate muscle growth without wrecking your recovery. A lot of times for us, typically for the women that we work with, we want to keep the workouts like all in 35 to 40 minutes. And that includes like proper warm up, activation, and then the main strength workout. So typically in that amount of time, depending on where somebody is in their journey, how heavy they're lifting, what their recovery looks like, it looks typically like 2 to 3 sets per muscle group. So when it comes to, that's the second variable, so the volume. And these are things that you want to play around with and adjust as you go along to keep building up and keep progressing. The third variable is the rep range. So that range is what stimulates muscle. So something that surprises a lot of women that I speak to is just realizing that muscle can grow anywhere from 5 to 30 reps per set. Now, lower reps, if we're talking about like 5 reps, 1 to 5, like super, super heavy, those are really, really key for like compound lifts. So think like you're using multiple muscle groups all at once. So things like squats, deadlifts. When it comes to the higher reps, that's more for like smaller movements. Think like bicep curls, lateral, shoulder raises, front, like smaller muscle groups too. So the rep range matters less than what I'm about to tell you next, but this is just something to keep in mind because a lot of women out there, they're like, well, so-and-so told me I have to aim for 12 to 15 reps. Another one told me I have to do 5 to 8 reps. We actually play around with this depending on where somebody is in their journey. And I'm going to talk about the next variable that's even more important than how many reps you're doing. So variable number 4 is proximity to failure. This is the real driver to adaptation. I could be doing I could be using a resistance band, okay, and doing a deadlift. And people would be like, well, you're not doing much. But if that's all the equipment I have available to me, I could play around with how close to failure am I to get that muscle growth. So this is why I'm saying this one's the most important one. If somebody ever tells me like, oh yeah, like I did a workout and it was like super easy, I'm like, cool, that tells us like you could either go heavier or like you haven't been close to failure. So this is the variable that most women are missing completely. And it explains why so many workouts produce almost nothing. And especially in the type of workouts where you're just focusing on doing more and more quantity, you're not actually able to hit that failure point because you're not going slow enough, you're not being intentional enough. So for your body to actually receive the right signal, the tissue needs to stay strong. So what I mean by this is the last few reps, we say like the last 2 reps should genuinely be challenging. Like you cannot do more after that. So you should stop when you have like 2 reps, 1 to 2 reps left in the tank. And if you feel like when you're doing it, you're able to keep going for 5, 10, 15 more, you're not going hard enough. Okay. You're not reaching that failure point. So 1 to 3 reps, let's put it that way, 1 to 3 reps, ideally 1 to 2, but 1 to 3. So that being said, like if you finish a set and you feel like you could have easily done like 5 to 10 more, your body pretty much got almost no signal from that set. You may have moved, but you didn't communicate anything meaningful enough to the rest of your body, to your biology, to actually generate change. So this is some of the this is what I mean by like purposeless workouts that I was talking from right from the start. It's basically putting in a lot of effort, feel like you're moving through the motion without enough stimulus. So that's where, again, like you could do, and you could play around with this too, right? If you're sitting there and you're like, well, Alexis, like I don't have much equipment at home and like I do more because it feels easy. there's ways to play around with that too. So what I mean by that is like you could do 6 reps with a heavier weight if you have access to it, right? So let's say you're doing an exercise and you realize, okay, like I could have gone for 5 more. That's a sign to increase the weight by like 2.5 to 5 pounds. You could do reps with a heavier weight, or you could also do 20 reps with a lighter weight. Both work as long as the effort is real. So if you are using a lighter weight, that's where we could play. And this is going to be the next variable, but I'm just going to mention it now. You could play with your tempo. So that's where, like the example I was giving you before, right? If I had a resistance band, that's all I had access to, and I was doing deadlifts, and I'm used to lifting heavier with deadlifts than a resistance band. Let's say I had all that access to, I would just slow on the way down and then power back up quickly. And I promise you, ladies, if you try this and you go, oh, it's just a resistance band. If you're really working with tempo, proper control, proper intention, you will feel it. Your body responds to challenge. It doesn't just respond to a random movement. So that brings me to the next variable. So this is variable 5. We have 2 more left. So this one and another one. So variable 5 is what I like to call, it's not what I like to call, it's what is called tempo. So it's basically thinking of it as a simple way to increase stimulus without adding weight. If you don't have weight, or sometimes you may be in between weights where it's like, I could go a bit heavier, but I might compromise my form. So that's where you could use tempo. So tempo is basically how fast or how slow you're moving through each rep. So slowing down on the lowering phase of a movement. So for example, again, for a deadlift, that would be like when you're lowering the weight, or the resistance band, when you're lowering down, you want to slow down the movement, then you want to power back up quickly. Same thing with like a bicep curl. That's probably the easiest one because you guys could see my arms. So you slow down and then you come back up. So like you're really, it keeps your muscle under tension longer. So, and the more time under tension, the stronger the signal is. So it's a very small adjustment, something that you can play around with depending, again, if you don't have access to heavier weights or you're in between weights. This is an important variable. And the last one, which is probably the most important one, right? We always save the best for last, is recovery. And this, ladies, is where actual adaptation happens. It took me years to wrap my head around this, okay? I grew up playing competitive sports, very much the mindset of like, I'll sleep when I'm dead and like, just go, do more, like I'll do more, the better it is. And when I was forced to step back, when I had my concussion and cycling accident, and then I realized I came back even stronger after that, I was like, wow, like this whole recovery thing might actually make sense. So this is one of the most underestimated, especially for women, especially if you're in perimenopause, postmenopause. This is exactly what we need to be focusing on, is that recovery response, because the stress response does change. Your recovery does change. We need to optimize that in between your workouts. And this is where classes, and where I'm not against classes like Orange Theory. We have a lot of women that work with us and they do fitness, Orange Theory. It's just a matter of how we're balancing it out in their training load. But in general, classes like Orange Theory, bootcamp style training can quietly work against you because they prioritize variety over proper adaptation. That's first off. And again, it's not made for you specifically. And second off is they don't allow sufficient recovery within the workout. And then chances are, like a lot of the women we talk to who are doing these classes, they love them so much that they're going like back to back. They're doing a couple classes back to back, or they're going multiple times per week. So this is where these formats, those types of classes, they are built around more moderate to high cardiovascular intensity. And what that does, and why I'm mentioning this, especially if you're in perimenopause or postmenopause, is that if this type of like middle state, this is exactly the state that we want to avoid, okay? So that state puts your body in a prolonged stress state, not just throughout the workout, but then even afterwards. And that's where it could spike cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Now, I want to just preface this because I'm not anti-cortisol. I'm not like cortisol is the problem. Absolutely not. We need cortisol. And again, we need intensity in your workouts to generate that stress response. But if we're putting your body in that moderate state of stress, and then afterwards it's still in that moderate state of stress, your body isn't adapting properly. And that's what we really want to pay attention to, especially in your 30s and beyond, because in your 20s, your body could buffer that more easily. Again, the stress response had a bigger buffer. It was different. Estrogen, more protective. It helped regulate cortisol. It helped support recovery. It kept inflammation levels more in check. But as estrogen starts to fluctuate and starts to decline, that buffer weakens. Your body becomes far more sensitive to training stressors and chronically elevated cortisol in this new hormonal environment, right? And that's where, in that new hormonal environment, if we're not playing around with that buffer and train your body to respond differently to it, then that's when your body ends up holding on to fat, particularly around the midsection. It actually ends up breaking down more muscle tissue. It disrupts sleep. It slows down recovery. All the things that we're trying to work around, right? You're trying to improve, right? So that's where a lot of women, they're working harder, they're sweating more, they feel more exhausted, they feel accomplished after those workouts, but their body is responding, doing the exact opposite of what we want. So this is where there's a mismatch in terms of the type of workout and what your biology needs at this state. And that's where one of the things that we really focus on with the women that we work with is recovery needs to be a part of the overall strategy. It is built within the entire design. It's not treated as optional, it's intentional. Your body, and like when I say recovery, it's not just, recovery from workouts and having rest days or active recovery days, but it's also about like, okay, how are we making sure that you're getting the right recovery nutrients, right? So making sure your body's getting adequate protein, stable blood sugar, quality sleep, manageable stress, right? And without those foundations in place, you could still be sending the right training signal and not get anything back because the body doesn't have the right resources to respond. So that's really where, when we're looking at the entire picture, like I talked about, those signals that you're giving in your workout are super, super key. But what we're doing around the workouts are even more important. And recovery isn't passive at this point. It's the work that actually gets done and actually makes a difference. So if you're somebody who is, and like, again, I just want to emphasize here and reiterate, I am not against intensity. We do need intensity at this stage too. But if you are doing a lot of high intensity workouts, that exhaustion that you feel after those workouts isn't a sign that your body is changing. For women, especially if you're over 30, it may be a sign that your body's actually under more stress than it could properly recover from. And working harder and doing more of that and layering on more of those type of workouts is not the same as working smarter for your biology and making sure that your body is adapting to the stressors that we want to give it. So those are the 6 variables. And before I wrap this up, I do want to add one more piece that I'm just thinking about as I'm talking here. And this always happens. I always have a general guideline, general outline of what I'm going to talk about because I could keep talking for days about this stuff. But there's one more piece that I want to add that most women are never told about. And this one becomes especially relevant as you move through your 30s, 40s, and beyond. So as estrogen starts to fluctuate, your body becomes more prone to losing fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, so think of those muscle fibers. We have 2 of them. So your fast twitch and slow twitch. But your fast twitch ones, those fibers are responsible for power, for speed, for metabolic flexibility, like how you could shift from, burning carbs, burning fats, like just keeping all that going. And a lot of the women that I speak to, they're focused on, again, strength. And then they tell me, yeah, like on other days, I'm doing like 35 to 45 minutes on the elliptical and it's more steady state cardio. So we definitely want to focus on steady state, like walks, easy stuff, again, could be great for active recovery, but steady state cardio doesn't maintain your fast twitch muscle fibers and neither does strength training. So that's where, like, again, it's not just about training for strength, it's about training for speed and power as well. So shorter bursts of high efforts, and that doesn't have to be like sprinting up a hill. Like if you have, knee problems, knee issues, there's ways around this. It doesn't mean like squat jumps and stuff like that. There's other ways of getting that like plyometric, that jump training in. But bike intervals, rowing, sled pushes, things like that. I'm not talking about long, exhausting sessions, but I'm talking about very short, very intentional bursts of effort followed by full recovery. So like 20 to 30 minutes, sorry, not 30 minutes, 20 to 30 seconds of short bursts of effort followed by like 2.5, 3 minutes of full recovery. And when you combine your strength training around that, and with the recovery, occasional power work here and there, you're giving your body that complete signal. You're telling your body, maintain muscle, maintain speed, maintain power, make sure that it adapts and rebuilds. So strength training says to your body, stay strong. And power work says to your body, stay fast, stay resilient. And recovery, of course, says, okay, now we could actually build. Now we could actually, make all of this work. And all these three things together is what your body, what your biology actually needs at this point. So here's the shift I want you to just kind of like walk away from today. And if you have any questions about any of this, like let me know. And then I'll do a quick check on all the platforms where I could see the questions. Sometimes they pop up afterwards, so I'll answer them after. But the big shift I want you to walk away from today is stop asking, how many workouts should I do? And start asking, what signals am I actually sending to my body? Because when the signals are right for where you are, your body is actually going to adapt. Metabolism becomes more responsive. Your energy stabilizes. Results start making sense again. And the workout piece is a big piece of that, so 10%, but it's what we do around it afterwards as well, right? The recovery piece. And the women that we work with, they don't come to us because they're not trying or they're like that they're brand new to this. They just feel out of sync. And a lot of them have been active their whole life. They've been doing, and like things just start changing, right? So they kind of feel out of sync with what their body is doing. And no one has actually taught them what their biology needs at this point to actually respond to this stage of life. So once you understand that and understand how these pieces come together, that's where everything changes. It's really about integrating that full strategy. And if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking like, okay, I get it. This makes a lot of sense. Like I understand why maybe what I've been doing hasn't been working, but like I still know what signals my body actually needs or where to start with all this. That's exactly what we help women figure out. It's not by handing generic programs. It's by actually looking at where things are misaligned for you. So having an initial call to see, okay, like where are things misaligned? How you're training, your nutrition, your recovery, your hormones, all this comes into play, and building something that is actually going to work with your biology at this point instead of against it. So if that resonates, if that's something that you'd like to dive deeper into, I'm always happy to see if I could give you more clarity, see if we're the right team to help you with all that. So if that resonates, feel free to comment, or you could message me privately, muscle. That way I know that you watched this training and it just starts you off at that point of understanding how all this comes into play. And then we'll just have a conversation just to see like what's been going on your end, where things like where that gap is, what's misaligned, and to see if we're the right fit, the right team to help you. So thank you so much for those of you who are able to join in today. And again, if you're watching the replay, let me know below, just comment replay. If you have any questions, I always like to go back and answer them. I'm just going to pull up Facebook here. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't tell me while I'm on live. So I'll go check after if you guys have any questions. And in the meantime, ladies, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.